Prayer is hard. It is. It's so different to anything else that we really do as humans. So it's really hard to wrap our heads around. It's a skill we have to learn and practice and get used to, and that can be really challenging. So today we're going to be troubleshooting some of the problems that we often face when praying and see what we can do to fix them. But before we get started, let me know down in the comments, what do you find most difficult about prayer? So problem number one, you think you have to pray in a certain way. Maybe you grew up only seeing one kind of prayer done. Or maybe when you were taught to pray, you were taught one very specific method of praying. Maybe it's just hands together, eyes closed, and this is all you can do ever, and this is the only way to pray. But that's simply not true. There are so many different ways to pray, and maybe some of them would fit you better, suit you better, help you to connect with God better. Of course, as we learn to pray and practice prayer, hopefully we can connect with God in all different kinds of ways and don't need like a very specific method. But when we're first starting out, it can be helpful to try different ways and see what helps you to connect with God. See what suits you best and fits into your life, because this can make it easier to build that habit and to get used to it and to be able to recognise God and take that time to listen to his voice. Because in reality, you can pray anywhere, at any time, in pretty much any way. You can do the traditional silent prayer in your head, or you can be praying out loud, or you can get creative with your prayers and try different prayer activities, things to focus on to help you pray. Or maybe writing your prayers down is most helpful for you. So if you're struggling to pray but have only ever tried one way of doing it, I really recommend that you try some of these different ways. I'll have some videos linked down in the description that show you some different ways of praying that maybe you haven't thought of before. Problem number two is that you're getting distracted. Part of learning to pray is learning to kind of quiet your mind and focus on God. But that can be a real challenge, especially when there are so many distractions around us in the world, whether it's social media, or our family and friends, or our children, or whether it's just the pressure of all the things that we know we need to get done. So I think there are two things that we can do to really help in this area and help us stop getting distracted. The first one is to carve out that time for prayer away from distractions. Whether that means you're going to a different place, a place you don't normally go, maybe you're going out for a prayer walk, and you can really concentrate because you're out of your house, away from everything that needs doing maybe, and you just have that time dedicated to prayer. Or whether it's that you're able to block out a period of time in your calendar where no one is going to distract you and you're not going to get phone calls, for example. And that can be a really wonderful opportunity for you to carve out that time and spend it purely in prayer. But maybe that just doesn't sound realistic for your life. So the second thing that we can do is to adjust our expectations. Sometimes it's just not practical for you to carve out 1 hour of time and expect no one to interrupt you. So you need to adjust your expectations and learn that you can pray with distractions. You just have to control how much you're allowing those distractions to interrupt your prayer. And what I mean by this is, maybe if you know you're really distracted because you can see that the washing up needs to be done and you just hate the sight of the pots and pans sitting on your side and that's distracting you from prayer, why not pray while you're doing the washing up? Combine those things and stop that from being a distraction. Actually pray while you're doing it. Don't expect to just be able to sit on the sofa and ignore that. And maybe if it's your children wanting to play with you and talk to you and you're trying to have this quiet time of prayer, you just need to adjust your expectations and think, actually, I can still pray with my children here. I don't need to be away from them. I don't need it to be total silence. Maybe they can be playing, doing something while I'm praying. Or maybe we can pray together and they can be part of your prayer life. I think that's also a really wonderful way of modelling prayer to them, teaching them how to pray by seeing you do it. Problem number three is you think you have to be good at prayer. Maybe you've heard someone else pray and you consider them to be really good at prayer or really prayerful or spiritual or whatever the word is. You think they're better at prayer, so you can't pray because you're not as good as them. But just because you don't pray like that person doesn't mean that you are bad at prayer. And to be honest, I don't think there is any such thing as being bad at prayer, unless you're just not praying. As long as you're speaking to God, listening to him, bringing things before him, you're praying, and that is good. So you need to stop comparing yourself to other people and just start praying, because God hears your prayers, whatever they sound like. Plus, as I said, people pray in such different ways. It's great to hear that variety and range of the ways that people pray. We don't want prayer to all just sound the same. In fact, for new Christians and people new to the faith, it can be really kind of off-putting if you only ever hear this one type of prayer that is super spiritual or really well spoken, because that can kind of seem a bit intimidating and difficult to achieve. People want to hear normal people praying. Problem number 4 is that you're expecting a certain answer. And maybe this does sound a bit silly, because obviously you're going to be expecting the answer that you're praying for. That's the outcome that you want, that's the outcome that you're praying for. Of course that's what you expect. But it doesn't always work quite like that. Answers to prayer can come in so many different shapes and sizes. Sometimes they don't look how we're expecting them to look. And sometimes they come in ways that we don't want. Sometimes God says no. Sometimes God says not yet. And sometimes He answers our prayers in ways that we might not expect. Maybe we're praying for someone we know to be healed, and we're there expecting them to be completely healed because that's what we've prayed for. We want their entire illness to be gone, completely sorted, fixed, 100% perfect. And maybe we're not seeing that happen yet. But are we looking for those smaller answers to prayer of actually they had a really good hospital appointment, or they've had a couple of days of no pain, or they're feeling really great? Those things are God answering our prayer in small ways. Maybe He hasn't quite answered that big prayer yet, but we still need to be able to recognise those smaller answers to prayer along the way. And perhaps you're also expecting that kind of immediate answer, and that just isn't always the case. And we don't always know why, but we do know that God's timing is far better than our timing, so we should trust Him. And sometimes that means that we need to persevere in prayer. Keep praying and keep praying and keep praying. And yes, that can be really challenging, but we shouldn't let it stop us from praying. We should take that time to persevere in prayer and keep calling out to God. Problem number 5 is that you're forgetting who you're talking to. Prayer is ridiculous if you forget who you're talking to. It's just you talking inside your head to nobody for no reason. That's not going to achieve anything. Prayer is only powerful, it's only transformative, it's only worthwhile if you are praying to God. If you remember that you're talking to the creator of the universe, someone who is able to do these things that you're praying for. So we need to make sure that it is God that we are praying to, and that we remember who He is and the power that He has, and really trust in Him to answer our prayers and to listen to us. But if any of these thoughts and ideas helped you, do give this video a big thumbs up and subscribe to see more videos like this all about prayer. And if you'd like to learn more about praying with your children and involving your children with your prayer life, like we talked about earlier in this video, do check out this video all about how to pray with a baby. And we will see you next Saturday for a new video. Bye!